On the evening of 11th November 1994, in Los Angeles, in the United States, a 33-year-old mother of 4 children, Marie Singleton, was in a heated argument, as always, with her husband, a 46-year-old man, Andre Jackson. Marie was tired of her husband's controlling behaviors and baseless arguments, so she told him that she wanted a divorce. Her husband didn't want to hear anything about divorce because he was afraid of losing the custody of his child with her. He was also afraid of splitting his finances with her during the divorce, and on top of all, he didn't want to lose his house, so he got extremely mad. He beat her up and strangled her to death. He then placed her body inside the trunk of her own car and drove the body to Dockweiler Beach, where he abandoned it and fled away. Murdering your wife is considered as a pure evil. This is the story of Marie Singleton Jackson. Marie Singleton Jackson was born on 12 August 1961 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, in a strong and a loving family. She was a very intelligent student at high school. She later joined a college where she graduated in the year 1983. In the late 1980s, Marie met a man whom she fell in love with. She became pregnant and she gave birth to a son named Marcus. However, Marie and her lover separated, and she was left to take care of her son as a single mother. Marie loved her son very much. To her, Marcus was her life, and so she gave him the best of everything that life could offer. In the early 1990s, Marie and her son relocated to Los Angeles, where they settled down quietly. She began working for the United States government. She worked for CIA as a communications analyst. This was a top secret job that she wouldn't tell anyone about. So she made most people in her life to believe that she was working for the Department of Defense as a clerical clerk, something which was not true. Her job required her to travel a lot, and she would always take her son along with her. In the year 1993, while working on a government project, Marie met a man named Andre Jackson. Andre was a former military man. He was a very hardworking man, and he worked with Hughes Aircraft as a contractor. Andre was married, and he had 2 children, that is, a boy named Andre Jr. and a girl named Andrea. Unfortunately, he had a lot of issues with his wife, and they separated. Andre Jackson got the full custody of their children, so he was raising them alone as a single father. So after Marie and Andre had met at work, Andre asked her out on a date. While on a date, the two had a chance to talk a lot, and they knew each other better. They started a romantic relationship, and later on, they became madly in love with each other. The two were perfect for each other. Andre Jackson also got along very well with Marie's son, Marcus. In fact, he was his role model, and he took good care of him as if he was his own son. Andre even involved Marcus in sports, and they would play football together. He would ride him on the back of his bicycle. He also taught Marcus how to swim. Andre played the role of a perfect father to Marcus, and they blended very well with each other. In addition to their good relationship, Marcus also got along with Andre's children. As days went by, the love between Marie and Andre grew more stronger. The two started engaging in sex, and soon Marie found herself pregnant for Andre. In March 1994, the couple went to Hawaii, where they secretly got married and returned to the United States. After the wedding, the couple lived in a townhouse in Inglewood, California. Andre's 2 children also lived with them. When the time came for Marie, who was pregnant, to give birth, she gave birth to a son named Marquise. However, as time went by, the relationship between Andre Jackson and his wife, Marie Singleton, began to take a different turn. The two would get involved in a lot of heated arguments, even over trivial matters. Andre became more controlling towards his wife, and during one of those arguments in October 1994, the police were called to settle the dispute, but no one was arrested. Marie started thinking about a divorce because she could no longer live with her husband. On the early Friday, 11th November 1994, Andre Jackson's daughter, Andrea, had gone to visit her grandmother, Marie. On the other hand, took her 2 sons, that is Marcus, who was now 8 years old, and Marquise, who was 8 months old. That day, his son had a day off from school, and so they went shopping. Marie also took her friend Jean along with her. After the shopping, she returned home with her children in the evening. Now Marie and her 2 sons were the only people at home. So her son, Marcus, went to his room to watch a cartoon on the television. His mother came to his room and told him something, but he was too distracted watching the cartoon that he didn't even pay much attention to what his mother had said. His mother left his room, but later on Marcus fell asleep. That evening, Andre Jackson's son, Andre Jr., had gone to a football game, which they were all supposed to attend together. Andre Jackson returned home shortly, and they started arguing again. The couple's arguments increasingly heated. Marie informed Andre about a divorce, but he refused to hear anything about it. He was not ready to lose his home, his child with her, and his financial stability. So that afternoon, while in the garage of their condominium, Andre started beating his wife. He then strangled her to death. After killing his wife, he placed her body inside the trunk of her car and drove the car to Dockweiler Beach to make her death look like a robbery gone wrong incident. After clearing the evidences in the car that might link him to his wife's murder, he started stage managing his wife's death. So he left the beach and headed to his son, Andre Jr.'s football game. Meanwhile, when Marcus woke up from his nap, he heard his younger brother, Marquise, crying downstairs, so he went to check on him. He discovered that there was no one at home. When Marcus found out that his mother was not at home, he tried to figure out what was going on, so he called someone to say he was at home all alone with his younger brother, Marquise. After he ended the call, a few minutes later, the phone at the house rang and he picked it up. It was his stepfather, Andre, calling, so he picked the phone and talked to him. His stepfather asked him if his mother was at home. He told him that his mother was not at home and they were left all alone. After the call, Andre headed straight home. Upon arriving at his house, Andre called Bridget, who was one of Marie's friend and workmate. He asked her if she had seen Marie. Unfortunately, she told him that she had not seen her. Andre told her that the last time he saw his wife was at 5 p.m. that day before he left to go to his son's football game. Bridget told him not to worry because Marie would be back home soon. After Andre had spoken with Bridget, he hanged up the phone and took the children to his mother's house. Even though Andre had spoken with Bridget over the phone, he drove to her house to speak to her in person and to see for himself if his wife was there. During those years, that is the year 1994, people were still using pagers to contact each other, so Bridget paged Marie, but she never called back. On Saturdays, Marie had a standing weekly hair appointment that she never missed, and so when she didn't show up for her appointment, her hairdresser, Kelly, called her house to check on her. But when she did, she found out that Marie was missing. Andre told her that Marie had been drinking and had stormed out of the house. Andre then cut the conversation short by telling Kelly that there was a plumbing problem that he had to deal with. Those who were close to Marie began worrying about her when they couldn't know about her whereabouts or reach her. They knew that something was wrong. By Saturday, 12th November in the morning, Marie still had not returned home or contacted anyone. So Andre went over to the home of Jean. Jean was also one of Marie's friends, and she actually went shopping with Marie and her children before she disappeared. Andre talked to Jean, but Jean also had not spoken to Marie or seen her, so she also paged Marie, but Marie never called her back. Andre contacted Marie's associates and started giving them excuses. He told them that on that day, he went out jogging. He also told them that when Marie went missing, she might have been with one of her ex-boyfriend. Andre was not consistent with his stories about the whereabouts of his wife. 18 hours after Marie was last seen, Andre contacted the Inglewood Police Department at 10:20 a.m. and filed a missing persons report. Police officers arrived at his house to start investigating the case. Andre told them that he last saw Marie at around 5 p.m. on Friday. That time his wife was off from work because it was a holiday. He had gotten home and found her drinking. They got into an argument and he left the house and he went to his son, Andre Jr.'s football game. Andre told the detectives that after his son's football game was over, he called home to check on Marie and the baby. However, their 8-year-old son, Marcus, answered the phone and told him that Marie wasn't home. Andre told detectives that he raced home in panic. Upon arriving at his house, he only found Marcus and the baby. Marie was missing and her car was also missing. After the detectives had heard Andre's statement, they began investigating the house. They found Marcus, who was Marie's son. When they questioned him, they asked him the last time he saw his mother. Marcus told them that he last saw his mother before he took a nap. The detectives asked him if he had spoken to her again, but he replied them no. They asked him if he remembered what his mother was wearing, and he said no. Marcus told them that his mother and stepfather always engaged in heated arguments. He added that on one occasion, his mother came running out of the room and told him to call 911 because his stepfather was abusing her. At that moment, his stepfather also came out of the room and warned him not to call 911. Shortly after the heated exchange, Marie called for a family meeting. At the family meeting, Marie announced that she would be separating with her husband, Andre, and in fact, they would be moving in separate arrangements. Marcus also revealed to the detectives that shortly after his mother had disappeared, his stepfather, Andre, instructed him not to tell the police about the arguments that he had always had with his wife, Marie. He also wanted him not to mention to the police that they had a family meeting. The police began to suspect that Andre Jackson was involved in his wife's disappearance. However, they could not directly link him with the incident. The police looked for Marie, who was missing. Friends and family of Marie also joined hands to look for her. They made flyers of Marie and passed them to people so that anybody who saw her can get in touch with the police. They plastered the flyers all over Inglewood. There were posters of Marie everywhere, but there was no sign of Marie. On November 16, 1994, Andre went to Dockweiler Beach in Los Angeles, where he started posting flyers around the area. While at the beach, he encountered a man named Timothy. Timothy was at the beach taking a walk, so he gave him a flyer. The man accepted the flyer, and he told him to contact the police if he sees Marie or hears any information about her. Timothy went back to his car to head home, and as he turned to head north on Vista Del Mar Boulevard, he noticed a gray Saab car parked along the street. When he spotted the car, he made a U-turn and pulled behind the vehicle so that he could see the license plate. When he pulled out the flyer he had in his pocket, he saw that the plates matched those on the flyer. So he called the police and informed them that he had seen the car, which is believed to belong to Marie. He gave them the location, and immediately the police arrived at the site where the car was. The police towed the vehicle to the impound lot so that they could inspect it. The car was locked from outside, and there were no keys found in or near the car. The battery of the car had also mysteriously been removed. There were parking tickets underneath the windshield wiper. The driver's seat was tilted forward. They forced open the car and searched inside. The detectives then popped open the trunk, and inside they found Marie Singleton's body. Curled up in a fetal position, she had bruises on her face. As they continued with their investigations, they noticed that there was a drop of blood on the hood of her car. There were also scrapings under Marie's fingernails. Upon further investigation, they didn't find her cell phone, purse, credit cards, and date book, so they figured out that she was robbed. Meanwhile, they took the body for an autopsy, and the medical examiner discovered that Marie died about 3 to 7 days before her dead body was discovered. The medical examiner also determined that Marie was manually strangled to death and she had bruises on her body. So the detectives started working on the robbery theory. They monitored Marie's credit card and bank statements for any activity. Marie's credit cards were found on an on-ramp in Inglewood, and they were not used, so they ruled out robbery as the motive for her murder. Detectives knew that this was a crime for passion, and they started to investigate her husband, Andre Jackson, again. Firstly, they informed him that his wife's car had been found and that there was a dead body of a woman inside the trunk of the car. The body was of his wife, Marie Singleton Jackson. After learning about his wife's death, Andre immediately became hysterical, dropping to the floor, kicking and screaming, and he seemed over the top, so the detectives had to end interviewing him. Marie's sister, Elaine Roundtree, received a mysterious mail from unknown person. The letter in the mail suggested that Marie's murder was related to her job at the CIA. So the detectives, with the help of the FBI, paid a visit to Marie's former supervisor at the CIA so that they can do their investigations. They found out that the mail was sent by one of Marie's co-worker, a lady known as McCulley. The detectives were able to determine that Marie's murder was not related to her work at the CIA. After Marie's funeral, Marcus went back to Philadelphia to live with his aunt. Eventually, after hitting a dead end in the investigation, the case was closed by the Inglewood Police Department. Later on, Andre Jackson moved out of California, and police had lost contact with him. After 8 long years with nothing, an FBI agent who had never forgotten about Marie's murder decided to take another look at her file. He reached out to the Inglewood Police Department and spoke to one of the lead detectives on the case from 1994. And they sat down together and went through the evidence that they had collected all those years before. They discovered that the DNA collected from underneath Marie's fingernails had never been tested, because in the year 1994, DNA testing was still in its infancy. But in the year 2002, they could have it tested. The problem was that the crime lab was backed up, and a nearly decades-old case was not a priority. However, 4 years later, detectives send the DNA to their crime lab for analysis. However, in order to link the evidence to their new prime suspect, they would need a cross sample from Andre Jackson himself. Unfortunately, they didn't know where he was. However, the detectives learned that Andre Jr., who was the son of Andre Jackson, had been arrested on another town and was in police custody. The detectives now wanted a familiar hit, so they tested the DNA evidence found in the crime scene of Marie against the DNA of Andre Jr. A week later, the results of Andre Jr. DNA test came back as a familiar hit. This meant that the son's genes and the father's genes are the same. It also meant that Andre Jackson was involved in the murder of his wife, Marie Jackson. Investigators were convinced that the person who killed Marie was Andre Jackson. A warrant of an arrest was issued against Andre Jackson, and the police began looking for him. They found him in Arizona and arrested him for the murder of his wife, Marie Singleton. After Andre was arrested, he was released on a $1 million bail. However, he was not able to raise that money, so he sat behind bars for 4 years while awaiting his trial to go to court. Later on, the prosecutors approached him with a plea deal. They told him to admit to killing his wife, and in return, he would be convicted with involuntary manslaughter, and he would be imprisoned for 11 years. And this meant that he would only serve for 1 year before he is let out on a parole. Andre refused the plea deal, and he decided to go to trial. So on February 17, 2012, Andre Jackson went to Los Angeles County Courtroom to stand trial for the murder of Marie Singleton Jackson. As the trial began, prosecutors told the courtroom that after Andre Jackson and his wife, Marie, had tied the knot, the couple's arguments increasingly heated. Marie approached Andre about a divorce, but Andre wouldn't hear any of it. He was not ready to lose his home, his children, and his financial stability. So on the afternoon of 11th November 1994, while in the garage of their condominium, Andre and his wife Marie got into another heated argument. Andre beat his wife and strangled her to death. After killing his wife, he placed her body inside the trunk of her car and drove the car to Dockweiler Beach to make her death look like a robbery gone wrong incident. After clearing the evidences in the car that might link him to his wife's murder, he left the beach and headed to his son, Andre Jr.'s football game. While there, he made a call to his house to solidify his alibi. Andre's defense team attacked the DNA evidence. They told the jury that Marie's fingernails were not broken. Therefore, the DNA that was found underneath the fingernails couldn't be the result of a clawing struggle between Andre and Marie. Therefore, the evidence was unconvincing. The defense said that the blood found on the hood of Marie's car came as a result of Andre fixing the engine of the car and cut himself. Andre admitted that he and his wife, Marie, always had arguments in the past. However, they never quarrel on the day she disappeared. He denied being involved in her death. The prosecutors called Marcus to testify against his stepfather, Andre Jackson. Marcus recounted the physical abuse his mother suffered at the hands of his stepfather. On Friday, April 13, 2012, after 3 hours of deliberation, the jury convicted Andre Jackson of first-degree murder of his wife, Marie Singleton Jackson, and sentenced him to 25 years to life in California's Wasco State Prison.